It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
Welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. Quote of the day comes from Representative Eric Swalwell when asked whether he would vote to save Speaker Kevin McCarthy. He said, "Not my monkey, not my circus. I'm a hard no." And that is the right response from Democrats right there. Very simple. Not our deal. We've got no fight in this. This is the Republicans' problem. Democrats not coming to their savior. Good on Swalwell and the Democrats. Because maybe you heard Kevin McCarthy is out. And I'll be honest, I couldn't help but think of John Boehner today. John Boehner was stuck in my head all day. And look, he's probably drunk and stoned somewhere, laughing his behind off because you don't have John Boehner to kick around and make cry anymore. And this is what Kevin McCarthy says. Not going to have Kevin McCarthy to kick around anymore because he has announced he's not going to run for reinstatement, reimplementation, reelection, whatever. He's not going to do it. We'll see. But again, my mind went back to karma. There's that little thing called karma. And, Kevin McCarthy, you may remember when he was going to be speaker, he was going through the whole 15 times of being the guy. He said, "I want you to watch Nancy Pelosi hand me the gavel." And then the kicker was, it will be hard not to hit her with it. Now, interesting statement. You've got a guy, wanting to beat up a woman with a hammer. Not a good look for a conservative. But what else is new? I'm kind of curious what Nancy Pelosi was thinking today of where she'd like to stick that gavel. Just kind of a thought. Now, there is an acting speaker for the moment, as I understand. He was chosen from a super secret list that McCarthy put into place, a while, because this was predictable. Understand, his being ousted, very predictable. We talked about it, back in January when this whole thing was going down. But Patrick McHenry, the bow tie wearing Wall Street puppet from North Carolina, he will be the acting secretary. That could be a day, could be a week, could be a month. Who knows? Because, the Republican Party's in chaos. And the vote to remove Kevin McCarthy was 216 to 210. 19 people, I guess, didn't vote. All the Democrats and 8 Republicans voted to oust him. Now, understand, the Democrats, their speaker is Hakeem Jeffries. That's who they're voting for. That's who they want. They do not want Kevin McCarthy. They are not in the business of saving the Republicans. But you're going to hear this. You're going to hear this for the next several days that, the Democrats caused this. This is the Democrats doing. No. This is 8 Republicans. Andy Biggs from Arizona, Ken Buck from Colorado, Tim Burchett from Tennessee, Eli Crane from Arizona, Matt Gaetz, who, caused all of this from Florida, Bob Good from Virginia, Nancy Mace from South Carolina, who herself I can see throwing her name into the ring to be speaker, and Matt Rosendale from Montana. Those are the 8 that ousted McCarthy. Now, again, this is McCarthy's fault from the beginning for allowing one person to move on vacating the chair, which is what they did. Again, Dems, their guy's Hakeem Jeffries. If you'd have put Hakeem Jeffries up, all the Democrats would have voted for him. That's how this works. Now, understand, our government is now paralyzed. Without a speaker, the House isn't going to be able to move any legislation. There's no agenda, no legislative agenda. And I'll be quite frank, the Republican agenda is bad. It's terrible. and maybe shouldn't be moving because it's not going to go anywhere in the Senate. But this is the first time in the history of our country. Think about this for a second. First time in the history of the country that a speaker has been shown the door midterm. That, again, uncharted territory thanks to the MAGA Republicans. And we have no idea when they're going to, if they're going to be able to elect someone speaker. Who would want it? I've heard a lot of names thrown out. You know, Brian Fitzpatrick from Pennsylvania's name keeps being thrown out as kind of a centrist candidate that might get Democrats to vote for him. And I'm telling Democrats, don't. Your guy is Hakeem Jeffries. This is a Republican problem. Don't solve this for them because they're in disarray. And, you know, I was kicking around ideas of fun ideas to go, look, I mean, we're already falling into the rabbit hole. We're already in, kind of a free fall into chaos. Could it get worse? And my mind went to Trump for speaker. Because you remember, Marjorie Three Names threw that out a while ago. Could Donald Trump be speaker? Because you don't need to be a member of Congress to be Speaker of the House. Could he be? No, he's got a lot on his plate, a lot of trials, a lot of 91 felonies he's fighting over. The potential loss of his business in New York. $250 million in fines. Got a lot on his plate, but it would be, I guess, entertaining to see them try and move this. And and speaking of Trump could have saved McCarthy. All he had to do was put out one truth, and say, hey, knock it off. Act like a functional party. Act like you know what you're doing. Act like you've been somewhere. See, this is the weird thing. You got these 8 Republicans who, well, they're the Chaos Caucus. They're the Kook Caucus. They're the ones who want broken government. Now, here's the thing. We're going to keep hearing this. That government is broken and we need to fix government by tearing it down. This is going to be the Republican mantra because it's been their mantra for years. Only now it's going to accelerate because now they've completely broken it and they don't know how to fix it. So now it's finish it off, burn it to the ground, and let's start over with no ideas. Now understand, government is not broken. When you have people who understand why they're in office, when you have people who understand that they're there to serve we the people, when you have functional leadership who don't agree to stupid things, you have government that works. When the Democrats were in charge of the House, you didn't see this kind of chaos. When Nancy Pelosi held the gavel that McCarthy wanted to hit her with, you didn't see this kind of chaos. You didn't see we're going to shut the government down and destroy the economy and send us into recession every couple of months. You didn't see that. Didn't happen. But Republicans are going to tell you, well, it's because government's broken. No, you're broken. The Republican Party is broken. And they're on display for all of us to see right now. I had a little hope yesterday. I had about that much hope yesterday that Kevin McCarthy was going to go, hey, we averted a shutdown. We need to do some functional leadership. Let's make some deals and let's get some consensus. Let's move off of the crazy stuff and find common ground and move forward so that we have a functional government, so that we don't have to shut down over Thanksgiving, which I guess now might be in peril. But hooray! This is what Republican government gets us. This is what happens when you put people who don't believe in government in charge. And then they push policies that are destructive. Understand, red state policies are literally killing people. Conservative ideology is killing people. And I find it interesting. The Washington Post had a story today that pointed out just that. And when they looked at 3 different areas, Erie, Ashtabula, and I forget the place, Chautauqua, I think in New York. And they said, look, you look at the policies that they move on. Implementation of a cigarette tax, public investment in health, tightening seatbelt laws, and these different areas where local policies pushed by, either, conservatives or liberals. What happens? And what they found is Americans are more likely to die before age 65 than residents of similar nations, despite living in a country that spends substantially more per person on healthcare than its peers. They write that many of these early deaths can be traced to decisions made years ago by local and state lawmakers over whether to implement a cigarette tax, invest in public health, tighten seatbelt regulations, because they went back and they found, you know what? The cigarette tax. New York has a very high cigarette tax, something like $5.35 a pack. Ohio has like $1.60, I think it is. Guess which area has people who are dying at a higher rate from lung cancer? Yeah, the place that cigarettes are cheaper because more people are using them. Makes sense. It's what they're doing. And it's your freedom. It is your freedom to smoke until your lungs fall out and you can't breathe anymore. But here's the thing. The rest of us pick up the tab for that. And again, it's these conservative ideologies that continue to harm people. Same thing with COVID. We know in the places that were the most ardent supporters of the anti-vax movement, higher death rates. That's the reality. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with people going, hey, it's my freedom to smoke and to do whatever, and I'm willing to die a decade or two earlier. Good, bye. And I know that sounds cold and callous, but these are the choices these areas sadly make. And I know I'm going to get angry emails. There are Democrats in those areas too. Yeah, I know. But here's the thing. This is where politics plays in all of this. You look at a state like Florida. Florida right now is moving to roll back child labor protections. There are already 15 states that have done this. Florida would be the 16th. And basically just gutting hours and letting kids work overnights before they go to school, all kinds of stuff. And I started thinking about, where we are in this world, because Florida has a real serious immigration problem. No immigrants are going there, so their crops are basically rotting and nobody will come and do work there cheap. They got a real cheap labor problem, because that's what a wave of immigration brings you. You bring people in and they do the work that, Americans don't really want to do for poverty wages. So Florida's struggling. So what's their answer? What's their answer to getting people employed in agriculture or in, seafood processing or any of those, the meat packing industry? What's the answer? Well, the answer is children. The answer is gutting child labor laws to get those kids into those jobs. Now, understand, they're not kids that look like yours or mine. They're not going to be middle-class suburban kids. These are going to be minority kids. These are going to be brown kids who come from other countries. These are going to be those children first. But eventually, they're going to run out of those children because, well, they're going to slam the door. And they're coming for your kids. And they're going to do it in a way that also takes out public education, because that's their other wet dream. If they could just get rid of public education, voucherize it. And as I was explaining to someone today, the dream for the Christian right has always been get that voucher money, get a backpack full of cash. That's your child's education. And you can take it anywhere you want, even homeschooling. And, 15 years ago, someone told me that was the goal, to get homeschool parents to get paid by the government to educate their children so they could indoctrinate them how they wanted to. And look, they're doing a pretty good job of convincing people that no, vouchers are good. Now here's the kicker for me. And you're going to want to write this down because this is important. I view very soon this movement to say, no, work is education. That backpack full of voucher money that we're using to gut public education with, we're no longer going to give that to homeschool parents or to charter schools. No, we're going to give that to employers. Because now work is education. So we're going to pay employers to exploit cheap labor children, and that's going to be that's the future. Now again, it's going to start with those poor and those minority communities. It's going to start with them first. But eventually, when they destroy the economy for the rest of us, and AI and robotics, destroy work in America, it's the children who will get most exploited because they'll be cheapest, because they're going to come with, their own money, their own funding. That is conservative world on steroids. Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Does that sound crazy? Does it sound outlandish? Yeah, it sounded almost as outlandish to me 15 years ago when someone said, no, we're going to take tax dollars and give it to parents to indoctrinate their children with religious education at home. Yeah, it was crazy back then too. Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania to the auto factories of Michigan to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
The old factory towns in America's heartland have been taking a beating. Thing is, though, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. The new CHIPS bill that got passed will bring jobs back home and has already resulted in big announcements of major new factories opening. The American Recovery Package has allowed cities and counties to hire new police officers and firefighters and start rebuilding their communities again. We're finally turning things around after 40 years of screwing over working people. But will we keep moving in the right direction? That's our choice.
It doesn't matter what kind of weather. It doesn't matter what time of day or night. When Mother Nature's done her worst, the only thing that matters to us is keeping the lights on for you. The hardworking women and men of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, dedicated to keeping the power on in communities all across the country. Because when bad weather strikes, we know what matters most. IBEW, the power professionals.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
Well, I'm reading the Washington Post, and there's an article in there about Trump and the fraud trial. And this is one of those things where I'm so tired of the both sidesism. I'm so tired of Trump getting always the benefit of the doubt. That I was reading this article, and it said a civil trial over alleged business fraud by former President Donald Trump and his company began Monday. No. It's not alleged. He's guilty. He was found guilty. It was a summary judgment, the bench trial. Now, Trump's losing his mind. Evidently spent the day whining about not having a jury trial. But hey, that's on you, buddy. All on you. But this stuff drives me crazy. Alleged business fraud. No. He's guilty. It's over. This is the penalty phase. This is to find out how much it's going to cost him. Quite amazing. Just, I'll tell you. Let's find out who we got on line one. Hey, Alice, how are you?
Insane. How about yourself?
Can't complain. What's on your mind?
Well, a number of things. First off, have you read the op-ed in the Washington Post by him just having a fit about Matt Gaetz and saying he needs to be expelled from Congress and the party?
Who said that?
Newt Greenwich. He's wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post.
Oh,
about
okay, yeah. There's a couple of people, that are saying that now as well. And look, I'm good. Bye. Nothing would make me happier than to see Matt Gaetz shown the door.
Oh, me neither. Well, the hilarious part about it in this article that Greenwich wrote is he said, he goes through saying Nancy Pelosi is a liberal Democrat, and I don't agree with her on anything. But she was right what she said about him on Face the Nation. And I'm thinking, you just still had to get that little dig in there, right? they always have to stick that knife in there.
Yep.
And turn it. But what I wanted to say is congratulations. You got your wish.
It was predictable. You didn't need a crystal ball. You didn't need to be clairvoyant. He set himself up for this. This is what he wanted, and he got what he wanted.
I know, and a lot of people generally don't. So he actually did. But the whole Republican Party has gone insane, and there's just too much going on. And between Trump and his nonsense, and it's just like a regular clown show. They ought to have the latest episode of the Republican Clown Car or something. But you have a good evening,
Thanks,
Rick.
Alice. Appreciate it. No, look, that's the sad reality. And look, it's bread and circus. It's political theater. You know, the whole Trump trial is political theater. Today, he truthed out a picture of someone had drawn of him sitting next to white Jesus in a courtroom. And you go, am I missing something? No, because they're trying to marry him. This guy trying to marry him up to someone of faith, which is just bizarre to me. But am I surprised? No. Now, the weird thing is you look at the fact that Bloomberg has reported today, you stop and think about what Trump has done. Trump made a fortune off of inflating his assets, according to New York prosecutors. This is one of those things where, you know, as the rumor had been for years, his biggest fear is people finding out that he's not as rich as he says he is, that he's been inflating these things for years. And on paper, you know, when you're pushing the envelope, 100 times, it makes you look a little bit wealthier than you are. And this is kind of interesting in that, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, we've been saying for years he's not as rich as he is. And look, you know, he's still richer than I am, and he's richer than most people. But that billionaire status, maybe not. Maybe, you know, he hoodwinked everyone. And the con is finally up. That's the weird part of this, that the con might be finally up. And that he's going to finally, for once in his life, be held accountable. Now, here's the scary stuff. Gallup poll out today. And this is bizarre to me. This is really twisted to me. Said that a record high percentage of Americans now trust Republicans to manage the economy over Democrats. In fact, they said some 53% said that the Republicans were more likely to do a better job at keeping the country prosperous. And you go, you mean the ones who can't keep a speaker? You mean the ones who keep taking us to the brink of shutdown? You mean the ones that are, you know, doing everything they can do to cause a recession? Again, this is brilliant poll taking, because again, you can make any poll say anything you want based on your sample size and where you sample this stuff. And you've got a mainstream media that keeps pushing this narrative out. Republicans are. I've yet to meet someone who said, no, Republicans are going to make the economy great again. Because they're looking at what's going on, and it's not good. But, you know, like Pavlovian dogs, Americans get all lathered up when the corporate media rings the bell. And this is, again, time and repetition where, you know, they say it so often that potentially some people might believe it. You know, I go back to Harry Truman, who said, you know, if you want to live like a Republican, vote for a Democrat. Because oddly enough, the economy does much better under Democrats. It usually falters under Republicans. I mean, I think back to, you know, Reagan. I think back to H.W. Bush. I think back to Bush, the collapse that came there. I think of Trump, the collapse that came there. It seems weird that, you know, Democrats inherit a bad economy. They make it better. They make it better, progressively better. They do the hard work. They do all the work of you know, getting things back on the right track, you know, putting the supply chain back together, reopening the economy, doing all this stuff, getting people back to work, doing all this stuff. And the economy starts moving along, and then a Republican comes in with their policies and destroys it and trashes it. I mean, in my lifetime, H.W. Bush, first time I was ever laid off from a job because of his recession. W, second time I was laid off because of a collapse, because of his massive almost depression. And then the COVID thing. What is it about Republicans crashing the economy? Why can't they stop? Oh, that's right, because we keep putting them into office. We should stop. Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com.
I've been driving buses for 5 years, and my day-to-day routine is I wake up a little earlier than most people. I get on a bus, I go out, I pick up some students and make sure they get to school nice and safe. Here in Fairbanks, Alaska, that can be a challenge because of the winter weather and the icy roads. But I love the job. So the Teamsters are great. They provide us a lot of protections. They've always taken care of their people, made sure that our jobs were secure. We didn't have to worry about whether or not we'd have a job from day to day.
And that's amazing because before we'd be working 4, 6, 8 hours a day and only earning minimum wage was real difficult to make a living. And the Teamsters pushed a law so we make something we can live off of and not have to have a second job. What absolutely gives me peace of mind. The union membership allows me to focus on this job without having to worry about whether or not my family is going to be taken care of. I'm Andrew Case, and I'm proud to be Teamsters Local 959.
Before we close the program, we want to take a moment to thank our viewers and to share a little bit about why we do what we do. At the Rick Smith Show, we believe that media today is almost entirely controlled by corporate greed. So we have now 24-hour news channels. But instead of 24 hours of news, what we get is 1 hour repeated 24 times, and with tons of commercials creating obscene amounts of profits. Information once presented as a public service has now become a private commodity. So when lies make money, lies are what we get. We get a corporate-controlled rage machine feeding us anger and hate, trying to convince us that our problems are right-left or red-blue, when they are and always have been up-down, the wealthiest 1% versus the rest of us. Our goal is to be an alternative to that machine, not as a news show with a fancy journalist out front, but as a talk show run by a union truck driver and a team of working-class heroes just like you. Everything we do, both what we get right and what we get wrong, is dedicated to advancing the interests of America's working families. No corporate ad buys, no think tanks, no focus groups, no talking points. We are media by working people, for working people. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time.